Welcome, welcome. So welcome to the McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research as part of the Silver School of Social Work. I'm delighted to welcome you to, I guess, Mary, it's the week before school. And our lecture today is actually, our guest is really going to facilitate a discussion. So she has some remarks for us, but really a discussion around what are some of the services available for children and their families who are struggling with special needs, particularly communication and language needs. And Mary, we have the real privilege of talking from both a professional perspective. Mary's the head teacher of an amazing organization that supports children in Ghana. But she's also going to talk from a perspective of a parent who is raising her own child with special needs. And so, can I just tell a word about how I know you? A little bit and do a more full introduction. Mary was one of the people that welcomed Giselle and I, and Cassia, where's Cassia, and I, when we went to go visit NYU Ghana this summer. She was one of the people recommended in her center to us as really being on the forefront of providing care to children and their families, and being on the forefront of creating a service delivery system where there was none. And so I'm not going to steal all your talking points, but Mary really educated me that really before 2004, 5, 6, there weren't any services or service system built up to provide care for kids. And so Mary and her colleagues are really at the forefront of creating supports that are needed. Having said that, I've been impressed by Mary's commitment to build additional supports. She's like trying to meet the tip of the iceberg in terms of needs. And so our hope is that there'll be opportunities to partner both with Silver School of Social Work, but I know I have some colleagues from other departments at NYU. And the other thing that you should know, Mary, is that in this group, this very fine, talented group that I'm sure cares about children and their families, you have a large number of parents and parent advocates who are very interested in family support work as well. So I'm going to both welcome you. Every place we went in Ghana, we were welcomed. And so part of what Mary gave to me when she visited just last week was this beautiful piece that represented the colors of your country. And then she says, you have to give one to Giselle, because she found me and found this collaboration. And so that's how Mary told me to wear it. And so we are delighted to welcome you here. And I know many people in the room, but if we could just do a very quick go around, because Mary wants to make this as informal, as interactive as possible. And so if you could just kind of let her know where you're from, so she can know who are the parent support and advocates in the room, where are the professionals in speech and language, OT, where are the folks from Silver. I think that would help her so that we could be as interactive as we can. And so, Michaela, if you want to begin.
Hello, Mary. My name is Michaela Mercado, and I'm a research associate at the McSilver Institute.
I'm Cassia, and I'm also a clinical research coordinator for the STAPA program.
I'm Irvin Torres, chairperson of the board and also at Step Up.
I'm Hadiza Osuji, and I'm a chief program officer at McSilver here, and also the vice chair of the our community collaborative board.
I'm Kirby. I'm one of the research assistants with various programs depending on where I'm needed. So.
Hi, I'm Tricia Stevens, and I'm a doctoral candidate at NYU and a junior research scientist here at McSilver.
Hi, I'm Ashley Buss, and I work here at McSilver.
I'm Gary Parker. I'm the Deputy Director of the McSilver Institute and a doctoral student.
Hi, I'm Priya Gopalan, and I work here at the McSilver Institute.
I'm John Singler from the Linguistics Department in the Faculty of Arts and Science. I've been involved with NYU Ghana, NYU Accra, teaching there most recently for the spring semester of 2012. So because I've been there, I get to say Akwaba.
Very nice. Very nice.
Hi, I'm Ada Ortiz. I am a parent advocate with Kimberly Hillwood. I am also part of the community collaborative board, and I also work with Dr. Mary McKay in different projects.
Hi, my name is Geraldine Jerry Burton, and the same thing that she says, I do the same thing. I've been a parent advocate for about 16 years, and I have 2 children, 2 grandchildren. Both of my children have mental health diagnoses. They're adults, however.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Shorter, and I work with them as well. I'm a parent partner, parent advocate, however you want to use it, and I work for the NYU Child Study Center, and also work with Mary McKay's group as well, doing various different trainings and projects. So I'm happy to have you here.
Hi, my name is Helen Miranda. I'm a parent and a member of the community development.
Hi, I'm Angela Paulino, and I am with the Step Up program, and I'm also a member of the collaborative board.
And I'm Mary McKay, the director of McSilver, Institute for Poverty, Policy and Research.
I'm Anita Purr. I teach in occupational therapy at Steinhardt here at NYU, and for the past few years we've offered a course in the intercession time in Accra on disability in the global context.
Beautiful. I'm Trudy Festinger from the School of Social Work here in NYU, and my main research has all been in the field of child welfare.
I'm Latoya Small. I'm also a doctoral candidate here at NYU in the School of Social Work, and I'm also a junior research scientist here in McSilver, and I do some program evaluation at the Institute for Community Medicine.
Hi, I'm Peter Campanelli. I'm a clinical psychologist. I'm with McSilver, and I'm a senior scholar in organizational and community services. But if any of my grammar school teachers ever heard that title applied to me, they would laugh.
We'll make sure to share them. And there's a couple more.
Samira, you go first.
There you go.
Hi, Mary. My name is Samira, and I'm the postdoc here at McSilver.
And I'm Giselle Mary, I'm a clinical social worker here at McSilver, and also teach at the Silver School of Social Work, and had the pleasure of meeting Mary when we were visiting Accra. Thank you.
Hi, and I'm Amu Kowalik. I work at McSilver on communications.
And the one I worry a lot when I want to send news.
That's right. So Amu, thank you so much for all that you've done to organize, and welcome. And this is Cara D. Nassau, one of our core people in training and technical assistants here at McSilver. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. My name is Mary Amoah, and I would like to extend my appreciation to the McSilver Institute for having me here today. It's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so privileged to meet you all, learn from each other, ask questions, and also share what we like to do most, and the reason why we are also here, and that is our kids, our special kids. Thank you very much. I'll be as brief as possible, and I'll try to also speak very slow because I know my accent, which you have to forgive me. But if at any point in time there's something that you don't understand, please raise up your hand and I will explain. And I'm also going to leave enough time for us to have a lot of questions, because I believe that as we ask questions and I answer them, we'll be able to achieve why we are here today. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for welcoming me. So like I said earlier, I would like to introduce my family to you. I am married and married. My husband is Benjamin.
Oh, who's changing?
Oh, wait, I can do this.
There you go.
And I have 3 kids. I have 2 boys, 15 years, 13 years, and the special one among them is my daughter. I introduce her to you, and she is Renata, 11 years old. And this is my husband. He has been amazing, and he has been very wonderful, and he has also supported me throughout. It is not very easy to find in Ghana men who will stand behind you, especially when you have a child with disability, because most of them will run away because of social stigma, which I'll talk about later. And that's my little daughter giving me a wonderful, wonderful kiss. And this was a month away, and that was the first time I was away from home for 1 month from her. I came here in March to attend the Sunrise program. When I heard about it, I wanted to learn and be able to help her and also help the kids that access our services. And so when I came back, I think that was the best thing she did for me that day. And this is my son. He's 15 and he has just completed, I think it's high school, 15 years, and he's hoping to go to university. His is a final year, and he's hoping to go to university very soon, probably next year, God willing. And he has been very wonderful because, again, like I said, it's not easy for a child having a sister who has some kind of disability, being able to understand and being able to support a parent. And for me, that's a blessing because to have him and help me, otherwise I wouldn't be able to be here today. They have been very wonderful and they support what I do and they understand my daughter as well. Okay, so my daughter again and myself, as usual, a child with autism, you know, you can't just stand for a long time, you have to go. So, and that's my son, that's the second one, and he comes and then my daughter. So he's Emmanuel and that's with the sister. Okay, so again, that's me and my daughter. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to go and discuss the reason why we have all met here. A brief introduction about myself, which I've already given, and then my daughter's diagnosis, the most difficult one. And I hope and I pray to God that as I go through that moment of my life, I will not shed tears because it is part of me that is very, very emotional. And if you're a parent here, and when you get the diagnosis, I know it's one-time thing that happens to you, and if you're not, you know, strong enough, it can just break you down. I had a wonderful daughter like everybody is expecting. We had a good time. 2.5 years, she was very fine. There was nothing wrong. She had a few words initially. Then just before the age of 3, she kind of held from us, and then most of the time she wanted to be alone. Again and again, I was a teacher at the time. For 13 years experience, I did not know what it is. I did not completely know what it is at the time. And I went to a Catholic school, and we had some Peace Corps volunteers who were our teacher in those days around 90s. One of them I have built a relationship with, called Laura from Texas. She came to visit us around the time. And when she saw my daughter, just about 15-20 minutes being with us, she said, Mary, do you have an idea what your daughter might be going through or what she has? And I said, no, Laura. All that I know is that she keeps on losing the social skills and the little, you know, speech that she has. And she said, I think your daughter has autism. And that was the first time I heard about it. Of course, because I don't know what it is, I wasn't afraid. And she took it upon herself to take me to a cafe. At the time, there wasn't, you know, internet and information and all that. So she took me to a cafe, and then we just Googled in autism. And I started reading about it. The more I read about it, the more I tried to tell myself, it can't be happening to me. It was a difficult moment of my life. And as I said, initially, every parent's reaction would be denial. So I said, no, it can't be me. And what even makes it very difficult for me to accept this was that physically she was fine, she was just like any other child. But her social skills and her speech and the other things were all deteriorating, and I did not understand what was happening. And so even though that fear of me was there, but I kept on reading. As long as I dig deep into what it is to live with autism, I told myself, no, it is not true. And so I went from one hospital to the other with my husband, and then they kept telling me it was a delayed speech. So, you know, I should just keep on hoping, and then she's going to be fine. Some also said I should enroll her in a mainstream school, and that she'll be fine. But again and again, we kept on losing the little skills that she had. Occasionally, you know, she would kind of look into space, and then, you know, dancing sometimes. You look around and there's nothing amusing, but she'll keep on laughing hysterically, and I kept looking at her. And most people that will not understand this will think that, you know, the child is possessed. And that's what other people think. because the education is not out there. People do not understand what it is to have autism, you know, the different stages of it, what a child goes through and all that. So, of course, myself, I thought there was something wrong. And maybe my option was to go to a prayer camp. To go and, you know, pray as every parent would do in Ghana, because everything we have spiritual, you know, causes attached to it. So either there's something wrong and I need to find what the cause is. So of course, as any parent would do, I went to a few of them, praying and trying to get the autism out of me. But again and again, no. So I lived in a denial for some time, and then I started looking for the services. So I went from one place to the other to the hospital. Doctors could not tell me what it is. And in Ghana, we have one center at Accra called Autism Awareness Care and Training. So in one of the hospitals, they told me to go to the Autism Awareness Care and Training. And of course, we also have another center called New Horizon. All these ones are being, you know, started by a parent who has a similar challenge. But the Autism and Awareness Care and Training Center was started by one Mrs. Queen, who has a child with autism, and the boy is 31 years now. Later, I think I'll share a video and we'll send around so that people can get to watch. So I went there, and then we discussed, and you know, she told me, calm down. Your daughter is here, and you know, a few moments of being with a child with autism, you know definitely. Even you have not gotten the assessment, some of the things that the child will do or exhibit would let you know that there's something wrong. So finally, I got to believe and accept that my child has autism. And so I started to look for the way forward. A difficult decision to take as well. And for me, I was determined for people to see my child as an individual first and not be defined by her disability, because that is very important to me. And once she has come to stay, you must learn to enjoy that child. When you have good gifts, we hold on to it. And I also believe that in life, everybody has his own challenge. It comes in different phases. The way you see it, the way you understand it, the way you hold on to it will determine your reactions of things that you decide to do later. And so during that time, in one of the centers, I met one of the ladies that started our center, Awawa 2. And I wrote here, Awawa 2, and it means an embracing welcome. It's one of our Akan word that means an embracing welcome. She had come from UK at the time to start a study into the availability of speech and language therapy for children with such problems. And so I overheard her with another parent saying that she was looking for a teacher to run the center or to be the coordinator at the center. So I said, here I am, because I was looking for the services. And I had retired from Ghana Education Service a year, staying at home and trying to find out what to do with my child, because it was becoming difficult for us. Sometimes at night, she'll not sleep at all. There will be no sleep at all. Sometimes she'll just gaze into the sky and God knows what she's looking at. And you know, some kind of repetitive behavior. We have gone through all the stages. A stage where she will not even allow people to touch her. She doesn't want to wear, excuse my language, panty and you know, dresses. Whatever you put on, she will take and throw it away. And of course, for the rural folks, they will think that, you know, some kind of demon is in your child. But again, I said no. Something needs to be done. Just as the other parents are strong enough and are able to stand up. And for me, if you have a child who has intellectual disability, you, the parent, becomes the advocate. People do not understand us. What you go through on a daily basis, only you can understand. And when you stand somewhere to talk, people will know, all right, they will sympathize with you. But then on a daily basis, you know what you go through. So sometimes I can have my day line up nicely, but it will depend on my child's mood. And that is the kind of life you have to settle. Raising a child with disability is a lifelong commitment. There is no way you can, you know, have another, unless you want to run away from the truth. So that was how it all began. And so I want to a little bit about my organization. Like I said, we have children with autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and a few children with cleft, because we have children with speech and language difficulties. And just as I come to the challenges that I faced, one of the biggest in Ghana right now, and we are still dealing with it because of lack of education, is social stigma. Because we, the parents, are seen as, you know, either witches or having a demon that is, you know, kind of, how do I even put it? It's a difficult one. Because I know I have not done anything wrong. There are a few times that people think that I have done something, you know, behind my husband, or I have not been unfaithful. And so God has punished me with a child of that sort. And I know within my heart that that is not the truth. Disability can happen to anybody. It's no respecter of persons. If you have regular case, we thank God that you have them. For those of us who are the ones with challenges, we learn to deal with it. And the least that we can expect from other people is their support and moral support. Finding out from each parent, how are the children doing? How are you coping? And so most of the time when it happens, because of social stigma, some parents will not be able to deal with, you know, the immediate environment, and so they tend to hide them. The men who do not understand may even run away from home. And when it happens this way, if you have a child who is severely autistic or has Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, the mother who needs to hold the fort may have to stop work. And then again, the cycle of poverty continues. And so again, other people also believe that once you have a child with disability, then the child is possessed. So the advice that they would give to you as the mother, instead of supporting you, is go to the prayer house, just as I said, and look for somebody to deliver your child from that possessed demon. Again and again and again, I keep on telling them, if you think that my child is possessed, the best you can do for me is to continue praying for us and believing that that day when it comes, that, you know, demon which is possessed in my child will go away. So I just keep on trusting. And so social stigma is one of the issues that we really face in Ghana right now. It's a big one. I don't know how it is here, but in Ghana I can assure you that it's a big one. And parents, you know, do not already, we are having problems with having to deal with the disability, and also facing the larger community who are also accusing you of things that you don't even know. And there's little government support, even if there is any. The few that are getting the support are the traditional disabilities, and that is the hearing impaired and visually impaired. And those ones, because they can be represented and have a voice, they are somehow able to access services. But for a child with intellectual disability, how do they, you know, go out or speak for themselves or tell other people what they're going through on a daily basis? So otherwise, the parent becomes the mouthpiece or the advocate for that child. Then the other problem that I also face on a daily basis is sensory issues. My child sometimes can have overload of this, or, you know, is undersensitive to something. Sometimes to touch. People come to my house sometimes and she goes around smelling them. And so I understand and I know why she's doing that, but the people do not understand. And you know, it's a bit embarrassing having people around you and your child go around, you know, smelling them. Sometimes she wants to go without clothes. And again, we know, you and I know very well that this is not socially accepted. But then, a child with autism, you know, I have gone through the stages of it, sometimes even having to get her sit in the sun and try to rub it around her skin so that she can begin to understand the feel of other things. We have tried these things over and over and over. Now, I'm happy to say that, you know, she goes with clothes and she's okay with all that. But then there are also problems that we face with lack of services and information. Once you find out that your child has a disability or communication disability or autism or whatever it is, if you have the information to read about it, it makes it a bit easier for you, because then you understand and then you know the way forward. But here you are, you have been given the diagnosis and there's no readily available information for you to read and be calm. So it makes you very stressed out. I have been on BB drugs and I thank God that right now I am not, because I'm beginning to take one day at a time. And the things that I cannot change in my life, I learn to live. And again, I spoke about no government support, and I just learned from one of my mails today that last 2 weeks, there was a legislation in Ghana, and then we were represented. But again, in the paper, they wrote that autism and communication difficulties are lesser disabilities, which one parent stood up and said, no way, you have no idea what we go through them. So these cannot be termed as lesser disabilities or something that does not need to be given attention. And so fortunately, we got Mrs. Kweno to fight with them, and that aspect of the legislation has been taken out. And so we hope, but even look at the time it has taken them to put something in place for us. So when I talk of the government support and all that, these are some of the problems that we face. And then we also come back to financial challenges. If you have a man who is not supportive and does not understand disability, if you have a parent who is looking forward to a regular child who is going to, get all their A's and go to college and come back and, help you out. If you have a child like mine, those are dash dreams. For me, the ones that I look for when she gives me the eye contact, when she's able to take turns with me, when she's able to hold my hand, when she's not pushing me around from where people are. All these little things are things that I learn to appreciate and I learn to celebrate on a daily basis. But these are not some of the things that some people are looking for. And so it becomes very difficult for you, because if you have to stop work and stay at home again and again and again, financial difficulties. And also looking for the services. If you're looking for the service of speech and language therapy, Ghana has a population of 23 million, and we have only 7 speech and language therapists. So just check the average. 7 of them, 23 million. Out of this, and all these people are also centered around the regional capital, and that is Accra. So all the other regions, what happens? And they are taking care of stroke patients or other adults, and then our kids as well. So you can imagine the ratio now. Ghana does not also have an OT. I learned there was one who was working at the military hospital, but I never even got to hear of it. Because some of our children have gotten to that point where they need an OT to work with them, somebody to advise us and know what is the way forward. Where do you go from here? And again, this is a country that we live in. I have visited some of the schools here, and they have a lot of wonderful services. Some of the children have their personal speech and language therapies. Some also have some OTs working with them. And these are things that become like a glass street in Ghana. And when I talk of financial constraints on us too, if you have a child with cerebral palsy, or a child who, have mobility problems, bringing that child from home to where to access the service becomes a problem. So if you don't have a car to be able to drive, and then you have to go through the public transport, that becomes another problem. So even though the parent may want to access your services, it becomes very difficult for them to come to the center and access the services. And again, all these services that I'm talking about are centered within our regional capitals. And it tells you that the other 10 or 9 regions do not have some of these services. And the services I'm also talking about, most of them are privately owned, and that makes it very expensive. Now the partner support, which is very important, and I always say, because I've been at the forefront of advocacy, talking on radio and TV and all that. Because when it happens, the best that the woman can get is the husband's support. If you don't have your husband's support, it makes it twice difficult to raise a child. And so whenever I see men who are with their wives when they have a child with disability, I really appreciate them. But I also believe that as education go out, as information go out, as people begin to understand that we are not witches, I am not witches. And so we are not witches, and that the fact that you have a child with disability doesn't mean that maybe the other kids that you're going to have in the near future are going to turn the same way, because we have also had parents who have had a first child being a disabled child, and because of that, they don't even want to give birth again. Because they think that if I go and have another one, it might turn out the same way. And some parents are lucky enough, they have their husband's support, but we also have parents whose husband has run away from them, and that's another side. Looking for schools. I go around sometimes with some of the parents to go and look for admission for some of the kids. And again, it's not every child that can go to the mainstream school. Those who are on the more able end of the spectrum, we feel that one of the best ways that we can help them is to get a mainstream school for them with a facilitator. We have some that go once a week, others go twice a week, depending on the child's need or difficulty. And we also have some that go 5 times a week. And they go there, sit in the classroom with the child, and then assess whatever is happening in the classroom and break it down so that the child will be able to assess what is happening in the classroom. When it's also break time, or what we call sessions out, they come up with the child and then they help the child to socialize with the other kids. The idea of doing this is for the other kids who are growing up to see the one with a disability as part of them, so that when they grow up Sunday, they will not run away from it. We are also doing this so that the stigma, problem that we face, someday to come, we hope that people will begin to understand and see these children as part of the society and not, talk bad about them or do whatever they have to do. And in so doing, we are trying to create a more inclusive society, and people will also begin to understand the children. But having said that, to even get the assessment and be able to know whether to place that child in a mainstream school becomes the biggest question. I have been talking about the challenges. Yes, of course, those of us with children with special needs, we face a lot of challenges. But for me, I think there's the beauty side of it. My child has taught me so many things. I keep on saying that what she has taught me in life, I think my university degree did not give me. She has taught me to take one day at a time. And I keep on saying that if it's difficult for me as a parent, how much more difficult for her who do not even understand the world around her. And she has also taught me to be very patient. There's a little video I'd like to show about her at the table. If it's not here, that's...
Is it in the next slide?
Yes. Yeah. There's a video. So
this was something that I struggled to get her to. Getting her to sit quietly at the table and eat her food. Well, sometimes I want to take her out to a restaurant and we all sit as a family to eat. But it was something very difficult for her to do. And occasionally we try to encourage her. Even when you give her food and the sauce should not be mixed with the rice, it should be separate. But now she's learning, to eat the way we all do. And this is something I love. Sitting down and watching her eat her food quietly. And not, using the spoon and hit the plate and make a noise and start dance. And these are some of the things that I look for the other parents. But it did not just happen overnight. We had to work through this, encouraging her, motivating her, using reward system, and all that to be able to get her to do this. And so, like I said, even though we face challenges, there's the beauty side of this. Is also another video of her. We were going to school with her, and then she had to stand by the we had to stand by the roadside.
Right side up.
Okay, so that's also another one. And I love this one about her because it was also very difficult having her to sit close to people. When we are in Ghana, the bus system is like the shuttle we have here. And even over here, you have individual seats. Yes, and she will not allow people to touch her left and right. So if you sit very close to her, she goes like this. And if you sit right close to her, she goes like this. But I was trying to teach her that, sometimes when you are in the public bus, or that you can't have your own seat and not people touching you. But again, a child with autism, sensory overload and something might have triggered all these things. As you try to solve the puzzle, these are some of the things that I also appreciate. And some of the lessons that I said I've learned: patience, unconditional love, appreciate for life as a whole, and then meeting people. Had it not been my daughter, I wouldn't have met all these wonderful people here. She has taught me a lot. I've met a lot of parents on a daily basis at the office when I'm working. Parents come and then they share their innermost secrets with you. For me, I think that's something that I really appreciate. Because it is not easy for people to come up and share with you what they go through on a daily basis. It takes somebody who identifies himself or herself with you to be able to do that. And this is something I really appreciate. And I keep on using my own example to encourage them on a daily basis and tell them that, it is not the end of life. Having a child with disability is not a death warrant, and it shouldn't be. And so as we all continue to understand what it is, as we all continue to solve the puzzle, as we all continue to come together, we'll be able to have one voice. And someday when that stigma is all over and we can stand out and boldly, fight for the betterment of our kids, to be given that right education in Ghana. And I know very soon it will happen. So I'll move on to what I have on your table. So if you have, I'm not going to go through all this. When you have time, I think you can go through it at home and all that. But a few points that I want us to learn from this. Some of the things that I'm looking out for right now as we work with the kids, it's professional help. Professional help in a sense of having people to come and do assessment for the kids that we have. For instance, I spoke about OT services, which we don't have, speech and language services. And I always advocate for parent training. We don't have enough services or few centers here. So if we have parents being trained and know what it is to help the child at home, because at the end of the day, most of these kids will spend most of their time with the parent. So if the parent is giving the right information, is giving that training, then they will be able to understand and help the children at home. When they come to our center, they come there between 8 to 2 o'clock. And by 3 o'clock, parents might have come for them to their homes. The rest of the days they spend with the parents. So I think parents training is one of the things that is really dear to my heart. Having training for parents so that they can understand. Their stress level will be able to go down because they will know that, this is what I have to do for the child. And this is very dear to my heart. And the other thing that I also look out for are volunteers, people to come and work with the kids. I would like to say one or two things about volunteering. Sometimes the parents will not bring the child to the center or might not even send them to school because they feel that educating them, they are not going to get anything out of it. And so what is the reason to spend money and waste time on a child with disability? But I believe that if we have somebody working with a child, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, parents will see the need or the improvement within that level. Because if a child has poor eye contact, if a child does not, cannot take time with an adult, if the child cannot sit down and attend to an activity, and you have somebody working with that child to improve eye contact, all these little things that we take for granted, the parent will see it and be able to appreciate it. Most of our parents will come to the center and all that they're looking out for is, Auntie Mary, my child is not talking after 1 year. Auntie Mary, my child is not talking after 5 months. Auntie Mary, my child is not talking after 2 years. Anytime I take my time and I go through the communication ladder with them, basic social interaction, understanding, expression, and all that, then they begin to understand, oh, okay, now my child is not pointing, so that is a milestone that I need to achieve. My child is not having good eye contact, that's a milestone that I need to achieve. My child cannot wait to take things, which most of the children that we have cannot do. It should be their way throughout. And so some of these things, I feel that when we have parent training, they will understand, and then they are, not perception, but what they look out for, they will take their time and be able to understand. And when we start to work with the kids, because we also have parents who have taken the kids out because they brought them, and within 6 months to 1 year, there hasn't been any improvement. The improvement they are looking for is in speech. But if you have a child who cannot sit for 1 minute, is running around, going up and down, will not allow you to touch them, their social skills are so poor. What is the essence of the speech anyway? What is the essence of the speech anyway? Because they don't understand what they're saying, they will not look at you, they don't understand anything. Sometimes they can even just sit for just 10 seconds. And my focus is to help that child to sit for maybe 1 minute at the end of the day, or maybe 2 minutes, and that is what I'm working on. And parents don't see this. Because they brought their children for them to be trained, be able to speak. And And here you are sitting with the ideas of having to sit for 5 minutes and 10 minutes and 3 minutes, and it doesn't make any sense to them. But I feel that because they do not understand, if they have had a good training and they understand all these developmental milestones, they will be able to understand this. And when you ask a parent in Ghana about motor development, they know everything. When the child is supposed to sit, when they are supposed to stand, when they are supposed to crawl, when they are supposed to, they know all. When it comes to communication, they don't understand. They don't. So they don't know the importance of eye contact. They don't know the importance of pointing. They don't know the importance of taking turns. They don't know the importance of a child giving you a look to share an idea with you. They don't know the importance of joint referencing and all those things. And for me, these are very important. I think I'll pause here and then I'll wait for questions. Thank you very much.
For those unbelievable comments. And so we're going to open it up now for some questions, some discussion, some things that you perhaps want to follow up with.
Yes. Since your center is working with children with speech difficulties, it's not only autistic kids then, so you have many, many other kinds of kids. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What are the other kinds? I mean, sometimes speech difficulty is because of mental health problems.
Okay. We have children with autism, and then we have children with cerebral palsy. We have children with Down syndrome. We have children with cleft. And then we also have what we call the early language group. There are some of the children who have come in and they're between the age of 2.5 and 3. Some are also between 1 year, 8 months going, and their social skills is very bad. They are not pointing, they don't have good eye contact and all that. So we also have what we call the early language group. And there are some that you cannot really pinpoint and know what it is. Right. Those ones, they don't have cerebral palsy. They don't have autism. I don't know whether it's attention deficit syndrome or whatever they call it, but there is something wrong. Yes, and those ones, we also have them at the center. And let me also address this. We can only give them once a week, and that is how bad it is. So, for instance, you have a child with autism who comes once a week. By the time they come the next week, they might have forgotten everything that you taught them.
So have the parents.
Exactly. So the patient comes back to the parent training. The ones that are severely autistic, for instance, we ask them to come 3 times a week or 4 times a week, depending on their difficulty. But if you have 3 or 4 of them with an average of about 5 to 6 adults, sometimes by the end of the day, you're so stressed. And you know what I'm talking about, running around, trying to run after them, and they feel that they're having fun, and you are running your energy out. And sometimes you also don't have the right therapy toys to even work with them. And so you bring this one, and within the next 5 minutes, their interest is gone, they want to move on. Sometimes you even run out of ideas. Sometimes what you have planned for the day, it doesn't work. Your mind is here, and there's something else that is, catching their attention. So we have children with different groups of difficulties or communication difficulties. And we have Monday group, which is basically autism. Tuesday, we have the early language group. Wednesday, we have children with different disability groups. And so we have children with all the mixed. So we have autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and all that. And then on Thursdays, we have the most difficult group. And those are children with severe cerebral palsy. They are not walking, they are not talking, they are drooling, and they need physio services, they need shoes, they need wheelchairs, and all that. So those ones we can only accept not more than 7 on a Thursday because our staff cannot handle them. And then on Friday at the service, at the center, we do not work. What we do is all the staff that work with the kids at school, and those of us at the center are stationed one, we have meetings on Friday because there are a lot of issues. Those as facilitators at the school, they are facing problems. Either the teachers do not understand, they don't see the reason why they should allow this child to play with the other, all these issues. So on Friday, we meet as a group. And then we try to do this with the speech and language therapist, the one that will be in the center, and LQ also. And so we get an in-service training. We get to talk about the problems that we faced at the center. We get to also write notes. Even though apart from every other day that the children come, When the session is done, we write notes. And a typical day in a session in our center, when they come in the morning, we have what we call free play time. And the idea of this is to also see how the children are playing with each other. After the free play time, we go in for what we call the hello time. And we have their songs, in pet pictures. And then they learn to say hello to each other. This way they learn the names of the children in the group. And then we have the song time where they get to choose their favorite song. And this is one of the best ones they learn. Sometimes they fight over a picture. And even though it tells you that even though they are not talking, they don't have, language yet, they do understand the pictures. And so sometimes if you take something, let's say, McDonald, somebody at the back will not understand why you have chosen that song. But it also tells us that they understand what happens around them. And so we have that, and then after that we have what we call the tabletop activity. And tabletop activity, it could be centered around attention and listening. So we could bring something like a honeybee tree, and we have the little leaves, and we try to help them to focus and fix it. And these are some of the things that are very difficult for them to do. We do this over and over and over, and sometimes between a period of 3, 4, 5 months, they can focus and be able to. Some will be putting it in and, kind of close their eyes. Yes, but there is something you do. So after the tabletop activity, they come out, because you cannot keep them in the room for a longer time. And we have another outdoor play where we play with them with the staff as well. And then they come, and then we have the juice time where we get them to select the cups that they like, the colors, and then they request for either juice or water, but they all go for juice anyway. Yes, so we do that, and then we have our bye-bye time, and parents will come for them. And this we do over and over and over and over. And they understand the schedule and all that very well. I'm really looking for somebody to help us train in PEC, speech exchange communication, because I think some of them can be able to use this very well. And then ABA is also another area that we lack, because we don't have the professionals to help us work on that aspect as well. So that's a typical day. So of course we have different kids that are coming, and again they are the ones that we still cannot tell what actually the diagnosis is.
Have you found an increase in disability over the past few years? So in the United States, there's a huge increase in autism. I was wondering if it's the same?
Yes. We do not have the statistics, so I don't want to quote, but every other week, especially with autism, every other week we have cases of autism, between 2 to 3 cases every other week. But again, we don't have the research basis, and so I cannot give a number. But there's an increase.
Do you see an increase?
Yes, I think that because awareness is going out, people, instead of keeping them, are now bringing them. I think that is the reason. It has been there all the time, but because of stigma, they might not want to.
Is there a challenge in accommodating people who want services? Like, do you have a waiting list, or is it hard to fit in people as they come to you for services?
I have people on my waiting list. Now. And 2 of the reasons that I cannot take them, one, the staff strength. And if you have to take somebody to work with us, they need training. You can't just take anybody at all. I've had people who have walked in, and then they come a day, and the next day you don't see them. I call them, oh, Auntie Marian, I'll come the next day, you don't hear from them again. Because they need the training to know what to expect when working with them. I have children who push, who spit on you, who bite, and all this one, and people don't understand. And sometimes when they come, it becomes very difficult for them to stay with the kids. And so, without the proper and the right training for the people before they come in to know what to expect, we still have people coming in and going. And we also need people that will stay a little longer with the children. For instance, if you have a child trying to understand what is happening, and then you have people coming in for just 1 week and 2 weeks, and then you don't see them again, and they keep on seeing new faces, it doesn't really help the kids, because when they work with them at least for 2 months or 3 months over a period of time, they learn to establish a relationship with them. And this is very good, for the kids.
So, Mary, how many children do you have in any given day in the school?
An average of 14.
14?
Yes.
And how many,
14 or 40? 14, 1-4.
And how many staff do you have on any given day?
On any 6.
6. Yes. So you've got one staff member for 2 children about?
An average, or sometimes it's even less.
And each child comes once a week?
Once a week. We have about 3 or 4 that we've asked them to come 3 to 4 times a week.
Right.
But they definitely need it. They definitely need it. But there's also been the request from parents to have it run like daily, where we have the kids come every day. But we are yet to get there because we don't have the resources, we don't have the trained staff to be able to handle this. And you know you have to be careful when working with this kid. Yeah. The least opportunity, you know, you can lose them. Something can happen and then you are held responsible, so you have to be careful.
So you're serving about 70 children?
No, at the center right now I have 34 who are regularly attend our service every week. And then we have 7 that we support but do not come to the school because they are doing extremely well. And some are, you know, they need to have language. And so we supervise them and we have some of our facilitators working with them in the schools.
Can you talk a little bit more about how children are referred to in your program?
Most of our referrals are from the hospitals. Most of our referrals are from the hospitals. And most of them are also from families that are accessing our services. But I would say about 70% are from the hospitals. Yes, 70% are from the hospitals. And sometimes a parent is accessing our service and then will recommend us to.
And are you based mainly in Accra or Kumasi as well?
Just Accra.
Okay.
You talked about stigma. I'm from a culture where, you know, like you say, like when you have a kid with a disability, they think they're possessed or you know, those stigmas. How do you, what are some techniques you use as to like educate the public, let's say, about autism or those disabilities?
Do I have my pictures?
I hope there's a beautiful YouTube video you're looking for, right?
Okay. But I also got some pictures. I do a lot of campaign because this is very important for them to hear and also to let them know that if you come out and talk about your child, you know, it doesn't change anything. But like I said, people don't come out to openly talk about these things because of the stigma. And sometimes too, it's not just about you. Sometimes if you don't have the support of your husband to go and openly talk about this, I couldn't go on TV and talk about my child without my husband's permission. We live in a extended family system, so whatever you do happens, you know, it affects the extended family. So you can't just go openly and, you know, I need my husband to give me that parole. We have to agree that, you know, we want to talk about it. And so some mothers would want to talk about this, but the father may not feel very comfortable with this. And these are private issues that we have to, you know, respect. So last year, November, we had what we call parent meeting. And we brought about 129 parents together in Accra. And these are parents who have children with disabilities, different disabilities. And it was a wonderful day. Everybody, you know, they were bringing their heart out. And I said, this is wonderful. Let's write a petition. Go and present it at the government and everybody's hands up. You see. But until we really get there to get people to stand out and say, oh yes, we're going to have a march out to the parliament in Accra. Some parents that signed and said they want to do. We had about 20 to 30 parents. But then the political issue in Ghana, they said there's a warrant on demonstration, so we should hold on. But I hope that very soon, when everything is over, we'll do that. I think we wanted to ask a question.
I was wondering if, are most of your children local, or do a lot of them come from like
other
the state, yeah, like other areas?
Most of them are local. I think I've had about 2 or 3 that are coming or traveling about 3 hours to get to Accra, but it happens within, let's say, 2-3 months, and we are tired of coming here. Because I had one child that was coming from another town, and this was a child with autism. And you know when you have to get up in the morning, be, you know, in queue and all that, the trotro system. How do I explain that one? The bus, yes, and you know, sensory overload and all that. By the time they get to the center, the child is so tired and exactly, and you know the purpose for which you brought them, you can't even do anything with them.
Are there any training programs
available? Sometimes the speech and language therapists try to put up, you know, a training once a while for the parents. But most of the training that I've also had, some have come from here, And like I said recently, I came for the Sunrise program. It was a wonderful one about early intervention and intensive intervention with the child and all that. But most of the things, if you really have to practice this in Ghana, you need a stay away. The idea of volunteering is really now getting to people. But you can't just get people to come and work for you throughout the whole day without having to pay them something. And so it becomes very difficult to get. I have one parent here, and she's Mrs. Asma, and she's also a parent from Ghana that I introduced the Sunrise program to. Yeah, and the family also supported. She has come for the training. She just finished and she's living this. And that is how hungry we are for information. But again, it goes with a cost. So how many parents will be able, even getting the visa to come in, it's another problem. Yeah. And so if we have people who are trained and will be able to be like trainer of trainees for the other parents, I think it's a wonderful idea. We are looking to collaborate with this as well if we have people or institutions that are willing to work with us. I think that will take up.
Questions? Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a wonderful presentation. I personally, I was moved and I'm still moved. And it's a kind of a touchy subject because I sort of experienced most of what you're talking about because my older sister's son is autistic. And in fact, when you started, I had to battle with tears. I had to walk out in. Because growing up with her and when she had that kid, but later on in life, as I, come to understand what the illness of her son is, I felt really bad. Because at that time, we used to even run away from my sister thinking, oh my God, what did she do? She must have done something terrible. She has this mad kid in the house and all of that. But, as I, got educated and I got exposed, I sort of, understood. And I still understand, what she has gone through. So it was a sort of suffering or dying in silence because there was no support, no help, even from family members. And it's a situation whereby, even for a kid, if you get hurt and your mom say, oh, sorry, you feel better right away. You know what I mean? It helps ease the pain. But this kind of pain, it's, the parent goes through it and it's a tough thing to go through. Day by day, no sleep, and the child is going, and even the parent herself don't understand what the child is going through. So it is a really stressful and difficult situation to be in, for them to even know how to live with that child. So that has been lacking for a long time. Like you're saying, people are coming out now because they're beginning to understand, oh, okay, I am not a terrible person. This is actually, like people will be saying all sorts of terrible things in addition to what you're already coping with. It's a lot of load to carry. So, and I want to thank you. I can see you're not only physically, attached to this work, you're emotionally invested, you're putting your heart and soul into what you're doing, and I see it and I appreciate it. I just hope we have a lot more people like you to sort of try to put the message out there and to try to continue to do the things you're doing. So thank you. Thank you very much.
And something you might be interested in. My boss had a paper in the American Journal. It just came out, so maybe I'll just quote the number in the ISB, the state of inclusion education in Ghana. So you can find this in the American Journal. And
American Journal.
Yes, and it's alternative education. It's 57, number 3.
Mary, if you leave that with Amu, we'll link it and to the McSilver website, and so that people can access that. Absolutely, we'll be glad to share that.
So, do you have more questions?
I just want to follow up on what Hadiza said, because I think that many of us in this room, for the different projects that we work in, are trying to interrupt that cycle of, I see something wrong, I don't know what I see, so it has to be the parent's fault. I mean, it's almost, in some ways, we do a lot of work around kids' mental health, we do a lot of work around kids with special needs, even adults with mental health, the stigma that comes along with these differences is really huge. And yet, part of what you and Kirby identified is there's a set of amazing cultural strengths, right? There's a family is important, extended family is important, religion, church is important. And so how do you capitalize on those strengths? How do you get the church involved or the family involved? I don't have those answers, but I don't know if there's any work in Ghana around really helping families to mobilize or churches to mobilize on behalf of kids with disabilities. Is there anything, any beginning movements like that?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. Recently, we tried to start what we call the Awawa 2 week. And
I saw the pictures, yeah.
Yes. And Awawa 2 week, the idea behind Awawa 2 week is to bring the public and the family and the parents together. And then you learn to celebrate or embrace a child with communication difficulty or any form of disability. And what we tried to advocate within the week was that find one child with a disability. Go to them for just 10 or 5 minutes. Ask the parents what their child is doing. How are they coping with it? Just use a few minutes. And we're trying to encourage people on radio, on TV, and we called it the Embrace campaign. The Embrace a Child campaign, and it worked very well. And we had this last 2 years, it worked wonderfully well. Last year I had some pictures I want to show you.
I showed them while you were
And
talking.
we went to the biggest mall in Accra. And then we tried to give out our brochures, and then we went with the kids. And so they were doing their own thing, you know. I just, because of my daughter, I tried to do some of these things just to show them, and then we see the lighter side of it, you know, trying to gaze into space, and sometimes see them going around and doing kind of, people would look at us all right, but then they listen, and we did this, and this went a long way. This year we are trying to celebrate that day between 26th to 30th of October in Ghana. And it's a week-long program. And we hope that this time we are going to reach out to early childhood educators, the teachers, as one of the areas that they can identify some of, because the early childhood schools and educators, the children come direct in contact with them. Because we have this in Ghana, most parents, you know, let me wait. My child is going to talk, my child is going to be fine. And so we kind of face out that important time that we need to really intervene. Because it's, oh, let's wait for another year, let's wait for another year, let's wait. And the more you wait, the more you begin to lose the child out. So by the time they bring them, they might have formed their, whatever they want to do, they don't want to do this, they don't want. So we are looking for the early childhood educators to train them, and then to the churches. I don't know of any at the moment, but I think we can also think along that line, where sometimes we also go to the churches and speak to the women group within the churches. I think that would also be a good idea as well.
I think the faith-based organization issue is a major thing. Because I find that even my sister, you know, although it was a long time ago, before, you know, autism, you know, was up, she did public health in Boston University and went back home. But then, you know, there was a time I remember, you know, her husband made her take this child to the church. That's right. To like, deliverance. Yeah, for deliverance, to have, you know. So I think the church is a faith-based organization. They play a major role. I mean, if there is any way to probably mobilize this, you know, the churches, that's right, to be able to probably help, you know, educate the parents, like when they bring them, let them know it's not, we'll pray for the child, yes, but it's not really like the child is, the child is possessed or something like that, and try to refer them, like if they know of certain services or what they can do to help them, the resources, you know, let them know of the resources available, and then they can help direct these parents to, you know, what they really need to do.
That's right. So that's So Trish, I'm going to let you have the last word, and then we're going to close up and move into informal opportunities to talk to Mary. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to, again, I just second everything everyone said, and I love the message of inclusion that you have, embracing the children within society. And when I told my husband the name of the organization, and he said, oh, that's what you say to all children, to come and hug. So it elicits this, I think, instinctive response that all children do deserve to have that same embrace. So I applaud the work you're doing and all of your commitments.
Thank you.
Well, Mary, on behalf of our group here, I really just want to thank you for an unbelievably inspirational lecture. The pictures are amazing. I hope you can let us keep those and plug in some of that work into what we're doing with McSilver. We are very interested in working with our colleagues who have already been to NYU Accra, who teach courses there, and we're really exploring actively a partnership with Silver. So I'm just delighted to host you. We also have a pretty big group here. So when every place Giselle and Cassie and I went, they had food, we were welcomed, and so out in our lobby is a small reception for Mary so that you can ask her questions individually. She also is terrific at getting your email address and linking and social networking, so please make some time to talk with her individually, and we want to thank you again so